सो विद्या भारती उच्च शिक्षा संस्थान द्वारा आयोजित राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति 2020 से संबंधित इंटरव्यू सीरीज में आप सभी का स्वागत है। वी आर थैंकफुल टू माननीय प्रकाश जी, ऑर्गेनाइजिंग सेक्रेटरी विद्या भारती उच्च शिक्षा संस्थान, एंड माननीय रघुनंदन जी, जॉइंट ऑर्गेनाइजिंग सेक्रेटरी विद्या भारती उच्च शिक्षा संस्थान, for initiating dialogue and discussion on various aspects of NEP. Today we are going to discuss the provisions of NEP and medical education. इस कड़ी में आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं प्रोफेसर M.K. रमेश। प्रोफेसर M.K. रमेश is President, Postgraduate Medical Education Board, National Medical Commission. He was former Vice Chancellor of Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences, and he was also chairman of Board of Studies, UG Medical, Rajiv Gandhi University of Medical Health Sciences. Apart from being a doctor and professor, he is also very active for the right of medical teachers, President, Karnataka State Medical College Teachers Association. You are most welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
Namaste. Namaste to everybody.
This interview will be moderated by Dr. Chetan Singhai. Dr. Chetan Singhai is Associate Professor of Public Policy at Ramaiah University of Applied Sciences. He has worked as Chief Consultant to the NEP Draft Committee. He has also served as Member Secretary to the committee to review the quality mandates related to the promotion of research and MPhil PhD regulation in India. So over to you, Dr. Chetan.
Thank you. Sir, thank you so much, Anish ji. Ramesh ji, sir, thank you so much
pleasure,
for
Chetan.
joining us in the midst of
pleasure
the busy
for me.
schedule. Yes, sir. So as we are here in this endeavor, and this, as you know, this is a nationwide movement now. The spirit of NEP is everywhere, right from student to the head of the institution and the political will.
Exactly.
We were very keen to understand, because medical education is something which has been, again, an important domain for not only the healthcare but also the nation. One of the first thoughts which are coming through for us from your point of view, sir, now that you hold a very important position in order to decide the fate of medical education aligned to NEP, what are the core policy recommendations that you think or are critical to impact medical education, sir? That's the first question.
Actually, that national education policy, we thought that it would encompass all the disciplines. But I don't know, due to many reasons, actually, that the legal education and medical education has been kept out of NEP. But all the while, it desires that over the period, maybe by 2030 or 2040, it desires that all professional education should come into NEP. So even though at present is not in NEP, this present multidisciplinary universities, it has certain visions for the medical education. That over the period, the NEP would desire this all professions coming to the multidisciplinary universities. And also basically, when I see it, two aspects it emphasizes for medical education. One is to give importance for primary and secondary healthcare, and it wants integration of the various medical sciences like allopathic, Ayurveda, Unani, yoga, like that. These are the main core areas it is recommending, actually. Apart from that, there is not much for medical education in NEP.
Yes, sir. So second question which has come, again, these are questions which are collated over the multi-stakeholder perspective, is with regard to your thoughts on the reforms in the regulatory structure, which is again considered to be one of the most transformative reform that we are going to see in NEP, how it will impact medical education in course of time.
Actually, this is a very good idea. This is the Higher Education Commission of India. In fact, as we see it, actually, it has 4 verticals, each one for regulatory, accreditation, grants, and education. The main idea is to bring in transparency and the honesty in the implementation of the programs. We should see how the powers will be distributed between the various verticals. So to avoid corruption and to bring in transparency, the main thing is no one vertical should be powerful. So all powers, all functions should be equitably distributed, and each one should be interdependent. then only the transparency can be brought in. For example, if the regulatory authority given all the power to start the colleges, increase the seats and such other things, and the GEC, the education body, General Education Council, is only left with the curriculum formation and syllabus formation. So, and indirectly, you want it or not, the power will be in the regulatory authority.
Yes.
So this, I mean, I have not gone through that, but most probably it will be like this. These anomalies, if they are going to be that, such anomalies should be corrected. Basically, all should be interdependent. All four verticals should be interdependent. No one should get the predominance over the other body. This should be the main thing. Yeah. Otherwise, this is a very good idea. In fact, over the period, I would like medical education also to come into this ambit of Higher Education Council Commission.
Yes, sir. So now in this scenario of changes that are seeing, what would be the scope of NMC in this context? Because it's almost coincidence that both have born together. So how would you see the natural coming together of the? Yes.
Yeah, NMC, you can say it's a standalone authority actually. In fact, I would prefer, if not all the universities, all the disciplines, at least disciplines concerned with the health education should be under one umbrella. I would have preferred medical, dental, Ayush, pharmacy, nursing, allied health sciences. All of them should be into one overarching body, having multiple verticals like this one. But anyhow, this has happened actually, but it's a good thing. And this also has 4 verticals similarly. So this new body is still taking shape. And we would like to usher in a new, what do you call that, era in the medical education. Let's see what will happen actually.
Yes, sir. With the same spirit, the NEP also recommends the importance of preventive and community medicine, and how that would now alter or change or impact the medical education scenario, sir.
Yeah, so India is basically a rural-oriented country.
Okay.
So naturally, the many people will live in the rural areas. So many would not be able to offer the tertiary care center. So our aim should be to strengthen the primary healthcare and the secondary healthcare. And in fact, when you look at it, we always hear about that doctors refusing to go to the villages. This has many angles actually, but I have seen many of my friends also would like to work in the rural areas, but they don't go. Not that they would not like to go, because of various other factors: the children education, the quality of life, the non-availability of basic needs, all these things. Otherwise, they would like to go. But in these respects, I think government should look into it. They should make the village service attractive. It should see that the basic facilities are provided to the people who would like to go there. And in the education also, in the curriculum actually, in fact, we are thinking of giving more emphasis to community education and preventive healthcare, because this is what is required actually. So basically, instead of treating the patient, it's better to prevent a person becoming a patient. In this respect, actually, we would like to, in fact, promote yoga and the lifestyle changes, all these things actually.
Yes,
in fact, our main idea is to start the family medicine. That should take care of this community healthcare. This is very popular in Western countries, even UK, America and all. Unfortunately, India doesn't have this thing. Even though we were the country which had many clinics, family physician concept, even though they were not qualified, of late, we find very few people going into clinics and practice. This is where we want to start a new course, family medicine, wherein the person who gets admitted there, he'll be trained in various disciplines and qualified to become a family physician. We'll see whether such concept will pick up or not, but we are going to try for that.
Yes, sir. So another thought which is coming around now, which the stakeholders are seeking more clarification and thought, is the idea of entrance test. With the NMC coming in, how it would alter the entrance test as for the entry into exam for medical education as well as for professional practice eventually.
Actually, what happened first I will tell you about the postgraduate entrance examination. Which one you want to choose? And actually, the people who get into MBBS are postgraduate education. Hello? Hello?
We are listening, sir.
Okay. Actually, what exactly you want, Chetan? Hello?
No problem, sir. You continue because everything is on record.
Okay, fine. The entrance examination, we need to have a yardstick. So we cannot do away with the entrance examination. So there has to be some parameter, whether it's an entrance examination or the qualifying examination. People who get into MBBS, they have to clear the PES 2 system. So we have to take the final year PUC marks or the entrance examination. But I feel the entrance examination gives an equal platform to everybody. Whereas for post-graduation, after MBBS, so for what used to happen, there are various entrance examinations used to be there. But often NEET is there, people are taking the NEET. But the problem is during internship, the students, instead of concentrating on learning clinical skills, they are concentrating only on the coaching classes to get into postgraduate education. This aspect, we are bringing in a reform in another 2 years. We are going to introduce next examination. That is, after the final year examination, there will be one common exit examination. Whoever qualifies in this will be eligible to practice, as well as that marks in the examination will be taken for the PG selection also, so that they can concentrate that 1 year of internship to learn the clinical skills.
Yes, sir. So aligned with this is also the question about the lateral entry of the allied health science students. Also, one of the idea of multiple entry exit, which NEP talks about in the undergraduate degree. How we could envisage the same model, like the flexibility and mobilities.
Chetan, actually, what NEP proposes is after 1 year certificate course, after 2 years they can exit with the diploma course, after 3 years graduation, after 4 years as an honors degree. But it's very difficult to employ that system in MBBS. See, for example, first 2 years, people learn only basic education, anatomy, physiology, and all these things. So if they exit with it, what will they do? So from there, the clinical will start. So the question exit doesn't arise here. So I think that system cannot be implemented in medical education. Because after 2, see, he would have got into after entrance examination and all. After 2 years, you cannot expect him to quit. It's like denying another person that opportunity and also wasting the national resources. That may not be viable in medical education. So what sometimes I think is, so basic sciences are common across many health streams, like anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, pathology, microbiology. Almost you can say, of course, MBBS students study more, but across the field like dentistry or Ayush, they also study to some extent.
Yes.
Maybe these teachers can be made available to teach all other streams. I think equitable distribution of the human resources can be made. So that option is here actually, where we can think about that.
Yes, sir. So because there's another issue about energized and motivated faculty, which NEP talks about in terms of in the medical education sector. How there are issues about workload between practice, that is clinical service, and then the teaching, then also with regard to the research component of it. So how do we see that the spirit of NEP and NMC coming in? How you see a way forward, sir, in the next few years?
So we expect doctors to work 24 hours. We expect them to teach the students. And also we expect them to do the night duties, do the VIP duties, and to teach also.
Yes.
So it's very, and we also expect them to become researchers.
Yes.
So we have to draw the line, and we all expect them to do without giving any facilities or incentives. First, what I feel is the teaching profession should be made attractive. It should be incentivized and give the facilities. And I feel give them good pay, give them facilities, and ban the private practice. I feel like whoever a teacher or a researcher should be a full-time teacher or researcher. So there are many people who would like to teach honestly for full-time, but because the pay is not good, many get into private practice. So if somebody wants to concentrate on the research and education, it should be a full-time person. So this is where we should incentivize it, pay them well, then give them the facilities. See, in many medical colleges, many faculty are there. We expect them to do present papers, do research and all. See, they will not be provided even space to sit. Forget over the internet and the computers. So these basic facilities should be given. One more thing, that when it comes to the quality, When you look at it, in a government sense, even a clerk is given a training. But in teaching is the only profession where no training is given. So whoever gets selected to become a teacher, we should intensively train them, at least for 3 to 6 months. So that way we can produce better teachers.
So most of the PG students are the one who definitely move nowadays towards teaching. So how would your role as NMC, as the president of the PG course, how can what could be the way forward, sir, in line with NEP itself to strengthen and train? Yes.
Yeah. As such, postgraduates are supposed to teach undergraduates. It's a part of their curriculum.
Yes, sir.
They are supposed to take classes for the undergraduates. And here we can train them more in the communication skills, in the interpersonal relation. All these things we can train them better. Actually, this is where the training will come in. In the first year, emphasis should be given on this teaching skills, research skills, basic training in methodology, research methodologies. All these things should be trained in first year. Yeah, but so whatever the training during post-graduation, once they finish, once they become full-time teachers, at that time they should be given a training, basic foundation training before they become teachers. We should make it compulsory. It's a policy decision. The state has to take it.
Yes, sir. So, multidisciplinarity in medical education is another aspect. Multidisciplinarity, which could be one possible low-hanging fruit for institutions to align to NEP 2020, providing multidisciplinarity. So, what are the barriers and drivers for that you envisage, sir? Because you have a deep experience in that and expertise.
Actually, I don't see any barrier.
Okay.
In fact, I am against the standalone universities. In my view, university is a learning center where all disciplines should be there, and students from all backgrounds should study there. That will improve the interpersonal relationship. The society will become a healthy society. So when we look at Harvard or Oxford, you need go back, Nalanda and Takshashala universities, various students from various disciplines studied there. That concept of education should be brought in. In fact, I was disappointed when medical education was kept out of the NEP. So I would be the first person to come forward to recommend integration of medical education into the NEP, into the what do you call that, multidisciplinary universities.
Yes, sir. So some of the affiliating colleges who are, I think, with the NIRF ranking and NAC coming in, they are already figuring quite well in terms of innovation quality. So is there a plan to envisage autonomous college model so that they could be innovative with the curriculum, teaching, and so on? Of course, they are already now, but is autonomous colleges is a way forward coming soon, is what we can expect, which NEP also talks about, autonomous degree awarding colleges.
That discussion has not yet come in actually. But as such, we see, if you look around, many institutions have become deemed to be universities. The single colleges have become deemed to be universities. It's almost like autonomous institution only. But the MNC is not promoting it actually. Maybe in the coming days, we should see it will come into the discussion or not. As of now, that such kind of discussion is not there.
Yes, sir. So I think there's one last point from your side is the message that for the overall stakeholders and the higher education aspirants in medical education, that how do they envisage this when all of this could come in practice? So what is your message that you would leave us with, sir, for the country?
When I look around, what I see is the lot of emphasis is on the quantity rather than the quality. See, we tell that World Health Organization envisages 1:1,000 doctor-patient ratio. They say is in India it's 1:1,700. So there has been an emphasis on increasing number indiscriminately. So what's happening is that's taking a heavy toll on the quality. So many substandard colleges have sprung up, and many undertrained doctors are coming out. This is not, in the long run, this is not good for the society, not to the society, not to the people. So this we should the government has given instruction recently that by 2022 we should have 1 lakh UG seats and 1 lakh 75,000 PG seats. Now at present the UG seats are around 85,000. But one thing what we are forgetting is we are not counting Ayush doctors into that. See, if you count Ayush doctors also, we have almost achieved that ratio, World Health Organization ratio. So taking that into account, we should stop giving emphasis to the numbers. We should start giving emphasis to the quality. See what happens actually, if this goes on like this, if the dilution happens, we will fail to attract the best talent. The top students, meritorious students may not opt for the medicine if the present trend goes on. This is my concern actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, sir. So thank you so much for responding to all our questions. There's not even a single question you had left out. So thank you so much. That shows,
Thank
as
you.
Anish ji said, your passion for the domain. And we have heard about you. It's good to see you, sir. We have heard a lot about you, and look
Thank
forward to
you.
meeting in person.
Thank you,
so much.
Chetan.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Anish ji, anything you want to add?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.